The first bottle shattered against the concrete wall behind her, spraying glass across the alley like sparks. Amina Okorie-Han didn't scream. She ran. Her shoes slapped against wet pavement as laughter burst behind her. Slurred, reckless, confident. Too confident. She could hear how close they were now. Too close. Her lungs burned as she cut left into a narrower passage. Neon lights flickering overhead, the smell of alcohol and trash choking the air. "Don't run," one of them shouted, laughing harder. "We just want to talk." Another bottle flew past her ear and exploded ahead, forcing her to skid to a halt. She turned sharply, heart hammering, and sprinted in the opposite direction, straight toward the dim pedestrian underpass she'd been avoiding all night. The Yonggak underpass swallowed her in shadow. Her breath echoed, too loudly. Footsteps followed. 3 sets, maybe 4. She could hear them stumbling, but they weren't slow enough, not drunk enough. Her foot slipped. She caught herself on the cold wall, pain shooting up her palm. Panic tightened her throat. She ran again, vision blurring, mind screaming at her for being stupid, for staying late, for taking the shortcut, for thinking she could move through this city unnoticed. The underpass opened abruptly on the other side. She burst out and collided hard into someone solid. The impact knocked the air from her chest. She stumbled back, ready to bolt again, but strong hands caught her shoulders, steady and unshaking. "Easy." The voice was calm, not surprised, not afraid. Amina looked up. The man standing in front of her was tall, dressed simply in dark clothes that blended into the night. No jewelry, no visible weapon. His expression was unreadable, eyes sharp but distant, like he'd been waiting for something he hadn't expected to arrive this way. Behind her, the laughter stopped. Silence fell heavy and immediate. She didn't need to turn around to know why. The men who'd been chasing her froze at the edge of the underpass exit, their faces drained of color, bravado evaporating as recognition hit. One of them muttered something under his breath, something that sounded like a name. The man holding Amina released her slowly and turned his head just enough to acknowledge them. That was all it took. I didn't know," one of the delinquents stammered, bowing repeatedly. "We didn't know she was." "Go," the man said quietly. They didn't argue. They didn't hesitate. They turned and ran, shoes slipping, bottles forgotten, fear sobering them faster than time ever could. Amina stood there shaking, staring after them, waiting for relief to crash over her. It didn't. Instead, she became acutely aware of the man beside her. He watched the alley, where the men had vanished, his posture relaxed but alert. When he finally looked at her, his gaze was assessing, not predatory, not kind, measuring. "You're hurt?" he asked. She shook her head, then realized that was a lie. Her hand throbbed. Her ankle ached. Her chest felt too tight to breathe properly. "I'm fine," she said anyway. He studied her for a second longer, then nodded once, as if accepting her answer at face value. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said. Something about the way he said it made her laugh. A short, humorless sound. "Neither should you." That earned the slightest flicker of interest in his eyes. They stood in silence, the hum of the city creeping back in. Amina's heart still raced, but her instincts were screaming something else now, warning her that the danger hadn't passed. It had only changed shape. "I can walk you somewhere safe," he said. "No," the answer came too fast. He raised an eyebrow. "You'd rather keep running?" "I'd rather keep moving," she corrected. He considered that. Fair. He stepped aside, giving her space instead of pressing. That, more than anything, unsettled her. She started walking. To her surprise, he walked with her. They didn't speak for several minutes. Just footsteps, side by side, neither rushing. Amina stole glances at him, trying to place him. She didn't need to ask who he was. Anyone who'd lived long enough in Seoul knew the face, even if they pretended not to. Han Jae-rim, the man people whispered about and avoided eye contact with. The syndicate leader who ruled without noise. The kind of power that didn't need bodyguards visible at all times. And yet here he was, alone. "Why are you out here?" she asked finally. "So are you?" he replied. "That's not an answer. Neither is yours." She exhaled sharply through her nose, a smile tugging at her lips despite herself. "You like walking without protection?" "Tonight," he said. "Yes." They reached a quiet residential stretch. Older houses pressed close together. He slowed, gaze lifting to a row house with peeling paint and dark windows. Amina stopped walking. "This is as far as I go," she said. He looked at her, then at the house. Something shifted in his expression. Something old and heavy. "So, you'll be fine?" he said. "Will you?" she asked. For the first time, he didn't answer immediately. She turned to leave, but before she could take more than 2 steps, headlights flared at the far end of the street. A car idled too long. Then another. Jae-rim's posture changed. Amina felt it before she understood it. "They weren't chasing me," she said quietly. His eyes stayed on the cars. "No, they were watching you." "Yes." Her chest tightened. "And you knew?" "I suspected." "Then why?" "Because," he interrupted, finally turning to her, "sometimes it's useful to see who takes the bait." The car doors opened. Men stepped out, not the drunk boys from earlier. These moved with purpose, controlled, familiar. Amina took a step back. "I want no part of this." "You already do," Jae-rim said. One of the men spoke into his phone, eyes never leaving them. "He's here. With her." "With her?" Amina echoed. "You didn't tell them I'd be here." "I didn't tell anyone," Jae-rim replied. The implication hit her slowly. "You were supposed to be alone." "Yes. And now I'm a variable." His mouth curved slightly. "That's one word for it." The men advanced, stopping just short of confrontation. None of them dared touch him. "Chairman Han," one said carefully, "you shouldn't be here." "I know," Jae-rim said. "That's why I am." Silence stretched. Amina felt something settle into place in her mind. A realization she didn't like. "You wanted this," she said under her breath. "You wanted them to make a move." Jae-rim glanced at her. "Not like this." One of the men shifted his weight, impatience bleeding through discipline. "We were told to escort you." "Escort me where?" Jae-rim asked. There was a pause. "Too long." "That's what I thought," he said. He turned to Amina. "If you stay here, you'll be questioned. If you come with me, you'll be protected." "Protected by who?" she asked. "You." "Yes." Her laugh was sharp. "You're the reason this is happening. And you're the reason they're nervous," he said quietly. "They didn't expect you." She searched his face, looking for manipulation. All she found was truth she didn't want. "Fine," she said, "but this ends tonight." He met her gaze. "Nothing ends tonight." They were guided, not forced, into a black car. As it pulled away, Amina watched the row house disappear behind them, a sense of unease crawling up her spine. She didn't know why that house mattered, but she knew it did. Inside the car, silence pressed in. The man in the front seat spoke quietly into his phone. Park Sung-ho, Amina said suddenly. The name slipped out before she could stop it. Jae-rim's eyes flicked to her. You know him? He said. I know of him, she replied. Reckless, ambitious, likes to prove loyalty loudly. The man in the front stiffened. Jae-rim smiled, faintly. You've done your homework. So have you? She said. You didn't save me because it was right. No, he agreed. She turned fully toward him now. You saved me because you wanted to see who'd react. And because, he added, you didn't run when you realized who I was. That's because, she said softly, I've been running my whole life. It stops working after a while. Something passed between them then, recognition, perhaps. The car turned toward the river, industrial lights glowing in the distance. Amina's phone vibrated in her pocket. She didn't check it. Not yet, because she already knew who it was. And because she knew deep down that this night wasn't about survival anymore. It was about truth. And truth, she had learned long ago, was more dangerous than fear. The phone vibrated again. Amina finally pulled it out, her thumb hovering over the screen. No name showed, just a string of numbers she knew by heart, but hadn't saved in years. She didn't answer. She slipped the phone back into her pocket as the car slowed, tires crunching over gravel. They stopped at Sable Harbor Garage. The place looked abandoned at first glance. Corrugated metal walls rusted by sea air, a single light flickering above a wide rolling door. But Amina could feel it. Too quiet, too controlled. Men were inside, watching, waiting. Jae-rim stepped out first. No hesitation, no visible tension. He walked like someone entering a space that already belonged to him, even if tonight it didn't. Amina followed, her senses sharp, heart steady in a way that surprised her. Fear had burned itself out earlier. What remained was something colder. Focus. Park Sung-ho emerged from the shadows near the entrance, clapping slowly. A grin stretched across his face that didn't reach his eyes. Chairman, he said, you scared us. Jae-rim stopped a few feet away. That was not my intention. Park laughed. Everything you do scares us. Amina watched the exchange carefully. The balance was off. Park was too relaxed, too confident. You brought a guest, Park continued, eyes sliding to her. That complicates things. I don't recall asking for your opinion. Jae-rim replied. No, Park said easily. You didn't, but the elders did. That word hung heavy. Elders. Jae-rim's gaze sharpened. Which ones? Park's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. Enough. Amina felt it click. This wasn't an escort. It was a test. They were led inside. The garage door rolled down behind them with a final, echoing thud that sent a shiver through Amina's spine. The space inside was wide and mostly empty, save for a few parked vehicles and a folding table at the center. Choi Min-suk sat there, hands folded neatly, posture relaxed. His face was calm, almost pleasant, the kind of calm that came from knowing more than everyone else in the room. Amina Okorie-Han, he said gently, standing. It's been a long time. Her breath caught despite herself. Jae-rim turned sharply toward her. You know her? Choi nodded. Of course I do. Amina met his gaze, anger flaring hot and sudden. You knew I was alive. Choi smiled faintly. Alive is a flexible term. Park shifted uncomfortably. Jae-rim looked between them, something dark stirring behind his eyes. Explain. Choi gestured toward the table. Please, sit. Tonight deserves honesty. No, Jae-rim said. Tonight deserves clarity. Amina stepped forward. My brother disappeared the night you took control, she said, voice steady but tight. Amina Okorie. He drove one of your cars. He heard something he wasn't supposed to. Silence pressed in. Choi sighed softly. He was in the wrong place. And I was in the wrong family, Amina said. Afro-Korean. Easy to erase. Easy to blame. Jae-rim's jaw tightened. I never ordered. I know, she interrupted. That's the worst part. Park laughed nervously. This is getting dramatic. Choi shot him a look. Quiet. Amina reached into her pocket and pulled out a small recorder, placing it on the table. I have copies, she said. Names, dates, conversations, including yours. Park's face drained of color. Jae-rim stared at the recorder, then at her. Why haven't you used this? Because I didn't want power, she said. I wanted answers. Choi nodded approvingly. And now? Now, she said, meeting Jae-rim's eyes. I want to know what kind of man you really are. Park stepped back. Chairman, this is manipulation. She's forcing your hand. No, Jae-rim said quietly. She's offering me a choice. Choi folded his hands again. If you protect her, you admit weakness. If you silence her, you preserve order. Jae-rim walked to the table, slowly. Each step felt deliberate, final. Amina's phone vibrated again. This time, she answered. Stay calm, a familiar voice said. I'm outside. Her chest tightened. Dammy. A pause. I told you not to say my name. Jae-rim looked up sharply. Amina met his gaze. You didn't kill him, she said. You let him disappear. And now he's back. Park snapped. This is a coup. Choi stood. Enough. Park drew a gun. The room exploded into motion. Before Park could raise it fully, Jae-rim moved. Fast, precise. He knocked the weapon aside, twisted Park's arm, and sent him crashing to the floor. The sound echoed loud, and final. Men rushed forward, but Choi raised a hand. They froze. Jae-rim looked down at Park, voice low. You failed your test. Park laughed weakly. You're choosing her over us? No, Jae-rim said. I'm choosing truth. He straightened and looked at Choi. Handle this. Choi inclined his head. As you wish. Park was dragged away, his protests swallowed by the closing door. Amina exhaled shakily, adrenaline crashing through her. Jae-rim turned to her. You're free to go. And my brother? He's already gone, Jae-rim said. I made sure of it. Outside, the night air felt sharp and clean. A car waited near the road. Amina stepped out. Older, thinner, eyes alert. They embraced without words. From the rooftop of Miruk Tower, Jae-rim watched the city lights flicker like distant stars. The world hadn't ended. It had shifted. Choi joined him. This will have consequences. I know, Jae-rim said. Choi smiled faintly. Good. Below, Amina looked back once. Just once, before getting into the car with her brother. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was controlled. And if you stayed till this moment, if this story pulled you in and kept you here, take a second to like the video. It helps more than you know. Subscribe if you want stories that hit harder and go deeper. And comment below, was Jae-rim right to choose truth over power, or did he just start a war? Because this story doesn't end here. It only learned how to breathe.